is my great honor and pleasure to be with all of you this evening. Thank you very much to our esteemed special guests and to each and every one of you for being with us. Through all of the twists and turns that took place in my life, I discovered a truth that transformed the way I see the whole world. That all of our countless desires, insatiable longings, fleeting gratifications, and inevitable anxieties all arise from one origin. That we have forgotten the love that is dormant within our own heart. Discovering that love brings about true fulfillment and empowers us to truly be instruments of change in this world. Everyone is seeking pleasure. Brahma Sutra tells Ananda Mayo Bhyashat. The little ant that's crawling on kitchen counter, the prime ministers and presidents of nations, everyone is seeking pleasure. Things can give a fleeting sense of pleasure to the bodily senses and the mind, but things can never give fulfillment to the heart. There's only one experience that gives satisfaction to the heart, and that is love. To love and to be loved. The origin of that love we find from the great Vedic literatures, and in fact the essence of all the true religions of the world, is the love between the eternal soul and the supreme soul, God, who in my tradition we call Krishna, the all-beautiful, the all-loving, the all-attractive object of everyone's love. Bhakti Yoga is a path that specifically awakens that spiritual potential within us. A description of bhakti took place about 500 years ago in a place that we call Prayag. The river Ganges begins in Gangotri, high in the Himalayas. The river Yamuna at Yamunotri. These two rivers are coming from the icy peaks of the Himalayan mountains, through forests, passing the caves of the Himalayas, the hermitage of the yogis and the sages, descending into the plains of India, flowing through agricultural fields, villages, towns, cities. And it is there in the sacred place of Prayag that the Ganga and Yamuna, they come together like two lost lovers embracing one another. And from below, the river Saraswati emerges. Every 12 years, at that very site, there is the largest religious festival in the world, Kumbh Mela. The last Kumbh Mela, in 1 month, the government has told us there were over 80 million people that came there. 5 centuries ago, there was a conversation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, avatar of Sri Krishna, and his very dear devotee, Srila Rupa Goswami. Just previous to this conversation, Rupa Goswami and his brother Sanatan were the highest ministers to a great king. They were great scholars. They knew so many languages. They were what is equivalent today to be multi-billionaires with beautiful estates. They were young, and everyone loved them. Rupa Goswami left all that, seeking true wealth. True wealth is not money or fame or prestige, because that doesn't satisfy the heart. It never did, it never will. And it's soon to be taken away. True wealth is discovering the treasure that is within our hearts. There on the banks of the Ganga, Saraswati, and Yamuna, Sri Chaitanya described the path of bhakti in a very simple and concise way. The practitioner of bhakti yoga is like a gardener. And the eternal, ecstatic love, prema, is like a seed that is buried deep within each and every heart. The gardener waters that seed through spiritual practice, through hearing. The seed begins to awaken when we meet people who love God and we appreciate their devotion. Adoshradha. Then a little faith comes from us. By the power of that faith, we seek more. Adoshradha tata sadhu sangha. We seek the association of those who inspire us and enlighten us to the true treasures of our own spirit. By their inspiration, we learn how to water that seed by chanting God's holy names, by hearing the message and the glories of the Lord from the lips of people who have protected the message of the Lord through the millenniums in what the Vedas call parampara, or disciplic succession. Bhakti, my beloved Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he defined it as devotional service. The expression of the will to love and the manifestation of love is through service. Service samsiddhyat haritoshanam. That's pleasing to the object of our love, or to Krishna. When we sow that seed of divine love, water it, protect it, fertilize the soil of our heart through a humble, sincere service attitude, you see, the seed cannot grow in a heart that's like a rock. The heart must be soft. Gratitude, humility, and an eagerness to serve in an unselfish way for the pleasure of God and well-being of others. Without those qualities, the heart is not fit to be a place for that seed to grow. Character and spiritual practice, when they are harmonized, that seed of bhakti, the bhakti lata bij, grows into a wonderful tree. And Lord Chaitanya told that from that tree come sweet, ripe fruits. Those are the fruits of prem, the fruits of ecstatic love. And when the gardener tastes that fruit that's been offered to the beloved Lord, happy forever. And in that happiness, the only purpose while in this world is to share these fruits with others. Just recently, I visited the birthplace of one of the great acharyas of India, Ramanuja. I went there in Sri Perambudar, near Kanchipur and Chennai, because this year is his 1000th birthday. So before the year ended, I really wanted to go and be with him. His successor was named Parasara. I'd like to tell a little story about Parasara. In fact, just before this event, Gaur Gopal Prabhu asked me to tell this story. And because he sang so nice, I'm obliged to tell the story. When Parasara was 5 years old, living in Srirangam, which is the largest temple in all of India, even today. One day, a Digvijay Pandit, a great champion of logic and grammar and philosophy, who traveled throughout the whole of India, challenging scholars to debate. Now, this is over 900 years ago. Debate was the sport of India. Cricket and soccer, nobody cared. But debate, because people had a different consciousness in those days. If you were a champion debater, you were better than a Bollywood star, better than the topmost politicians, and better than a cricket star. So this man, he gained so much wealth, so much fame. He had 4 strong men carry him in a decorated palanquin from town, to city, to tirtha to tirtha. He had marching bands in front of him. He had Brahmins chanting mantras and slokas and stotras. And there would be a loud challenge. There is no question that Panditji cannot answer. So as he was coming through the town, all the scholars were running away because they were afraid he may challenge them. Little Parasara, 5 years old, ran up to him and said, "Sir, I have a question for you." He looked down from his palanquin. He said, "I am the champion scholar of the world. You are just a child. Get away from me." Parasara said, "But I have a question for you." He said, "Your mother's milk is still on your lips. Out from here. Debate is serious." The little boy said, "If you're enlightened, then why are you making so much emphasis on the size of my body? I'm not my body. Please answer my question." He said, "What is your question?" The little boy picked up a handful of sand and held it right up to the face of the pundit and said, "Tell me, sir, how many grains of sand are in my hand?" He was never asked a question like this. He was speechless. He had no idea how many grains of sand were in his hand. He was so speechless that a crowd of people came around. They never saw him like this, even his own followers. Then little Parasara spoke. He said, "Sir, a person who has knowledge, real knowledge, sees the presence of God in everyone's heart. Such a person is like a tree with good fruit. If a tree has a lot of good fruit, the tree bows down. If a tree has no fruits, it doesn't bow down to anyone. If you don't have respect for others, if you're not humble before the greatness of God, then I considered all of your knowledge to be as worthless as this handful of sand," and threw the sand down. Coming from a tiny 5-year-old child, it pierced his heart to the core. He came down off of his palanquin and bowed to the feet of this small child. And with tears of humility in his eyes, he prayed, "I want to be your disciple." And he became a disciple. Years later, when Parasara grew up, he had another disciple. This disciple inquired from his guru, "What are the qualities that a person requires to understand who they truly are?" Parasara had thousands and thousands of disciples. He was a great scholar. But if we see the true saints and we understand the essence of the scriptures, jnana vijnana triptatma, the quality of a person who truly has realized knowledge, trinadapi sunichena, toror iba sehishnana, amani namana dena kirtaniya sadahari. That person becomes humble like a blade of grass, tolerant, forgiving like a tree, finds great pleasure in offering respect and appreciating others, and does not require respect for him or herself. When we're satisfied within, through seeing the limitless greatness of God's glories, of Krishna's beauty. When that becomes our satisfaction, we don't need to be praised. Parasara, so humble, he told his disciple, I can't give the best answer to your question, but I can tell you who can. A great devotee named Ananta. He lives on the holy mountain of Tirumala near Tirupati. Go there and ask him. Tirupati was 400 miles away from Srirangam. And in those days, 900 years ago, there was no cars or trains or planes or buses. He walked. He was so eager to get the answer of his question. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. He walked alone, crossing wide rivers, through jungles infested with tigers, poisonous snakes, and so many mosquitoes. Where did he find food? Then he had to climb 7 mountains. And when he came to the mountaintop hermitage of Ananta, Ananta welcomed him, gave him some simple prasad, and a place to rest. In the morning, this devotee asked Ananta, will you answer a question I have? My guru told me to ask this question. What are the qualities we need to develop to understand who we truly are? Ananta looked into the sky for a couple minutes, thought about it, and said, I need some time to contemplate your question. I will answer later. He waited. A week, a month, 6 months. Ananta didn't say a word to him. He was going to different kathas or lectures. He was doing simple services. He was meditating. But he never got an answer to his question. Then one day, there was going to be a big Mahotsav, festival. And Ananta was hosting it. Pilgrims came from all directions on this mountain. Thousands and thousands of people. This devotee was serving prasad. After he served a huge batch of people, he sat down to eat himself. Ananta came and said, there's another batch of thousands who have come. Please serve them too. He served everyone else. Then he came to sit down. He had his plate. And Ananta said, there's another batch. Please serve them before you eat. A third, a fourth, a fifth batch of people. Finally, everyone was gone. It was late at night. The field was totally empty, and he sat down to eat his dinner. It was actually his breakfast. He was still waiting for him. Just when he was about to take his first bite, Ananta came up to him and said, did you have a question for me? He was very enthusiastic. He jumped, he left his plate on the ground, and he jumped up and he said, yes, please tell me, what are the qualities that I need to understand and develop to understand who I am and who is God? Ananta smiled. He said, you must become like salt. like a chicken, like a crane, and like you. That's all. He walked away. This devotee was thinking, I waited 6 months for that answer. He was completely confused. What does that mean? But that was it. So he packed his little bag. He climbed down the 7 mountains, went 400 miles, arrived in Srirangam, and his guru Parasara said, did you ask your question? He said, yes. Did you get your answer? He said, yes. What's the answer? He told him the cryptic answer. Parasara clapped his hands and jumped up and down and said, what an incredible, comprehensive, perfect answer. The devotee was in tears. He said, I don't understand. What does salt and chickens and cranes and me have anything to do with anything? Parasara replied, let me share with you the fathomless wisdom of Anantacharya. Salt, it gives flavor to a preparation. If there's too little salt, it could be tasteless. If there's too much salt, it's ruined. Just the right amount of salt makes a preparation pleasing. Similarly, a devotee is like salt, because a devotee is balanced. Bhagavad Gita tells that one who is on this path, the journey within, the path of true perfection, Bhagavad Dharma, does not eat too much or sleep too much. Balance is their life, their recreation, their health, their responsibilities to family, responsibilities to society, and spiritual practices, which is a responsibility to God, which gives spiritual meaning and substance to everything else we do. It's very important that we live a balanced life. Otherwise, we go to extremes. We become distracted. Another quality of salt is it's hidden. If a preparation's really nice, we may praise it by saying the grains or the vegetables or the spices are really nice. But has anybody ever heard somebody say to a cook, the salt in this preparation is fabulous? Salt is giving so much flavor, but it remains behind the scenes. Similarly, a quality to truly make spiritual progress is we serve with determination, with enthusiasm for the well-being of others, but we are not seeking credit for what we do. We're happy to give credit to others. Another quality of salt is it relinquishes its separateness to become completely absorbed in the preparation. And similarly, a saintly person, a person pursuing saintliness, relinquishes the false ego, the ahankar, so that we could truly be absorbed in the loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The quality of a chicken, Parasara said, is a chicken will go to a heap of useless trash and select nourishing seeds and leave everything else behind. Similarly, one who truly wants to make spiritual progress must learn to be saragrahi, a person who seeks the essence. Everybody has faults. We can either see the good qualities in others or we could see the faults in others. If we're looking for the faults, we'll see faults. If we're looking for the good qualities, then we will be enriched with those good qualities. This evening, there's my very deeply honored God brothers and God sisters, Malati Devi and Vishaka Devi and Yaduvar Prabhu, Chandramali Swami. Very close associates of my beloved teacher, Srila Prabhupada. Malati Devi met Srila Prabhupada in 1967 in San Francisco. She can tell stories for days at a time how Srila Prabhupada saw the potential good in everyone's heart. Even if someone was addicted to so many bad habits, completely forgetful of any conception of Dharma, he would see that spark of divinity in every heart. And he would fan that, encourage that, and make it into a fire. And when that fire of devotion burned in their hearts, it burned away all of their bad qualities and faults. It's so much required in this world, in all of our relationships, to bring out the good in each other, whether it's friends or in marriage or among nations, among religions. Yes, we have differences, but to actually try to bring out the good in each other, to see that potential, is a necessary spiritual quality. We could learn that from a chicken, to seek the essence of our own true religion. Otherwise, we become distracted by all the sectarian, shallow, superficial conceptions, and we don't make true progress. To see situations, the opportunity. Whatever situation comes in our life, whether it's pleasing or unpleasing, we can complain. There's endless things to complain about. But we just become miserable and make other people miserable. But if we see the opportunity, how to grow in this situation, how to come closer to God, to seek shelter in this situation, how to serve. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one great Vaishnava saint, has told us, where there's the greatest necessity, there's the greatest opportunity to serve. And then he explained the characteristic of a crane. The crane is a bird with a long, pointed beak, white feathers. The bird stands on one leg in a stream of water, and little fishes are swimming by. Dozens of fishes, hundreds of fishes, thousands of little fishes. The crane just observes and lets the little fish pass. Focused. As soon as a big fish comes, he eats it. Cranes eat fish. We don't eat fish. But the crane is like our guru because he's teaching us. In our life, in the stream of life, we're so easily distracted by superficial little things that don't really matter. And we fight about them. And we're disturbed about them. And our life could be derailed by these things. So many problems, so many issues. They destroy relationships. Gossip. Fault finding. It's usually on such superficial, stupid things. So many of the things that disturb us every day, a week later, we don't even think about them because they just don't matter. That's what happens when we're focused on every little fish. Down honor and dishonor, pleasure, pain, success, failure, victory, defeat. These dualities are always coming and going. But if we're focused on what really is valuable in life, what really matters, so many of our superficial differences with each other and with ourselves within are resolved when we're focused on a higher principle. A few years ago, I was at one place and I was speaking to a marriage counselor. This marriage counselor told me a story that she had just encountered a few days before. There was a man and lady, husband and wife. They had such a deep-seated wall between them. They were fighting over so many little things. And the marriage counselor was trying to figure out why. One day they were having a session, and it came out. The core reason why there was such animosity between this husband and wife. The husband said, "In the mornings, you give me the end piece from the loaf of bread every morning. And you keep the nice middle part of the bread to eat. That is an insult. It's a deliberate insult to the nobility of my being that you're giving me the useless part of the bread every day." She started to cry. She said, "I'm coming from an Italian family. And in Italy, we fight over the end piece. Everyone in the family wants the end piece, but there's only 2 end pieces, and there's about 30 pieces in between. I'm taking up the austerity of eating the bad middle part, and every day I'm giving you the end piece." But you see, in America, almost everybody gives the end piece to the dog. They don't eat it. But in Italy, they like it. Jaigiridari, yeah? I mean, Giridhari and Gandharvi are from Italy. When he heard that, he understood. So you actually love me. You actually love me. And they lived happily ever after. It's a foolish little story, but it's very, very instructive. Because we're so easily distracted by little superficial things. It brings out the worst in us, and it makes us to bring out the worst in others. What is that big thing we should be focused on? Our relationship with Krishna, with God. In the Bible, Jesus said, what profiteth the person if they gain the whole world, if they lose their eternal soul? Najayate mriyate vakadachat. The soul is eternal. Nahanyate hanya mane sarire. It's beyond birth, it's beyond death. That's who we are. We are not the body, we are not the mind. We are living in a body and mind. Mamayvam so jiva loke, jiva bhutata sanatana. We are a part of God. That part of God that is our true identity is perfect. But somehow or other we've forgotten that. To awaken that understanding is true dharma. And in that awakened state, we realize God's love for us and our love for God. And then living in a spirit of compassion becomes the truly meaningful purpose of life. And when we're focused on that, then all the superficial little fish that pass by in this world, we see it for what it is. If we're focused on a pebble, we see it as a mountain. Little things become impossible to overcome. But if we focus on the mountain, we see the little things for what they are and just cross beyond them. It's the message of a crane. And Parasara said, and he said, a saintly person is like you because you were so eager for the truth. You traveled 400 miles. You crossed 7 mountains. You waited 6 months. Then you served thousands and thousands of people food without eating yourself. Your patience, your enthusiasm, your will to serve are the qualities of a person who truly wants to know themselves. Then Parasara smiled and said, actually, Ananta could have explained all these things to you the first day. But he wanted to till the field of your heart so you would be prepared for the answer. And he's so kind to me that he gave you this very cryptic answer just so that he could share his wisdom with me. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Satya Kapunoi Sravanadi Sudichiti Kori Yayodoi. This great land of India is Dharma Bhumi. Savai Pung Samparo Dharmo Yato Bhakti Radhokshajaya Hoitaki Aprati Hataya Yatma Suprasidati. The Srimad Bhagavatam tells that the supreme Dharma is that which awakens our loving desire to serve the Supreme Lord. Such loving devotion must be unmotivated by selfishness and uninterrupted by the ever-changing circumstances that will come and go. To build our life on the foundation of these dharmic principles is the true gift that India has to share with the whole world. It's the essence of all true spiritual paths. By chanting the holy names of our beloved Lord, this prema, this love, awakens. I'll end by sharing one simple experience I had with my guru, Srila Prabhupada. I was seeking a spiritual teacher. I hitchhiked from London to India and was traveling as a sadhu through the Himalayas to various holy places. And in Vrindavan, I was sitting in a small room, Sharaf Bhavan. And Srila Prabhupada was sitting with just about 4 or 5 other people, answering questions. One man, he was a dignitary of some sort. He said, "Swamiji, are you the guru of the whole world?" Srila Prabhupada was sitting on the floor. He looked down for quite some time. It appeared he had tears in his eyes. And then he, without even looking up, he said, "No." Then he looked up. He said, "I am just the servant of everyone. That's all." It's not just what he said, it's the way he said it. I understood he is the guru of the world. Because when we understand the limitless beauty and grace of Krishna and the love of Krishna upon us, our love for Krishna, for Sri Radha, is like watering the root of a tree. When we water the root of the tree, that water extends to every part of the tree, the branches, the twigs, the leaves. When we understand God's greatness, when we see that Krishna is in the heart of every living being, we're humbled and we feel that we are the servant of everyone. That's the true essence of spiritual love. That is the ultimate destination of our journey within. Thank you very much.